All right, you're welcome back to Metro TV. My name is Anil Fompofo, and it's time for Good Afternoon Ghana. We're focusing this afternoon on another important part of the economy which we need to survive. And if you remember, it really has been an issue in this government as it was in the previous administration of the John Mahama government. And that has to do with the issue of energy. The question still stands. Did the previous administration solve Dumsor before going out of office? Or it didn't, and this government was the one that solved the issue of Dumsor? However, the question is answered, power crisis or the power sector is still faced with very serious challenges, and the World Bank seems to be wading into the argument here and there. Once in a while, they're wading to wade it. But this time, the message that's coming from them, sounds more like a caution for us to put in more emergency strategies to put our power sector on the right path. So a story I have in front of me, the Daily Graphic today captured on the front page, it said, nation needs emergency energy plan, World Bank. And the story that we also captured says the World Bank Managing Director of Operations, Anna Berge, said that has recommended the government of Ghana to implement an emergency plan to tackle the country's energy crisis. So just emphasize the World Bank is committed to providing technical advice to ensure the energy sector contributes to economic resilience. Ben Boakye is also the executive director for ASEP. We've been speaking with him about energy. There are some, article he wrote, or I would say releases that he actually catalogued about the energy sector and what he thought that we should be doing. We'll go through those ones as well. As my guest will join me, Joe Jackson is Director of Business and Operations, Delex Finance, and also Daniel Osabote will join me in the studio. He's Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Business, Accra Technical University. My name is Anil Fompofo. We'll take a break now. When I come back, we'll start the talk. Welcome back to the program. It's Good Afternoon Ghana once again, and I already have with me in the studios Daniel Osabote, who is a Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Business, Accra Technical University. You're welcome, sir. Good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. So we'll go through, I think I want us to go through what ASEP released. It says that a summary of issues is titled Switching Gears and Protecting Ghana's Economic Sustainability in the Face of Power Sector Risk. And in the face of what Anna Bieda is telling us, we're faced with something. So this is how Ben Boakye captured the summary. It says that the power sector remains a major threat to Ghana's economic sustainability. The IMF program recognizes a reform of the sector as key to economic recovery. Tariffs have increased by 100% in the past 9 months, but liquidity has worsened within the same period, raising concerns about revenue accounting by ECG and the impact of the adjustment. The cash waterfall mechanism records its poorest performance in March and April 2023, meeting only 11% of the revenue requirement. And it also continues to say that this is because of ECG's discretionary spending and poor accounting. 5, at the same time, more poor decisions are being made to further threaten the sustainability of power sector, requiring the seismic shift in the governance of the sector. So I think my screen is off. If you guys can help me, please. My screen is off, so I can monitor what we're putting on air. And it also gives us the projected energy sector payment shortfall from 2023 and 2026. I think my producer can help me put them on the screen. And we also have projected capital investment in key social sectors of 2023 to 2026. That's all here. I think we can have. So this is the summary of what was captured, which I read. Now, the ones that have the graphs, we can also project that one. We have the background and okay, so this is the graph. This is the projected energy sector payment shortfall from 2023 to 2026, right? And it's totaling. Okay, move away from here. There's a lot of writing, but let's give the other graph that has to do with the numbers. The projected capital investment in key social sectors from 2023. Okay, this is the actual invoices revenue disbursed under the CWM of March and April 2023. Stakeholders, the actual amount, and then we have the ECG payment under CWM, and then the honored portion of invoices. All right, so just a few, but we can be putting the slides on the screen as we also discuss. I hear you saying
Good afternoon, yes. And good afternoon to viewers of Metro TV, where we find ourselves.
Before we even go into this issue,
okay,
I am at a loss as to how when we go to IMF as a country, we always bluff. In the previous administration, we say we went with homegrown policies, right? So we know what to do. But the IMF must always come in to sort of treat us like kids. I don't understand why that always must happen. Because when the IMF came in, I started seeing the major move by ECG, to collect revenues that are blocked or stuck in the system.
Now, Anne, to walk you down memory lane, this energy crisis started way back 1984. We had it. 1994 we had it, 1998 we had it, 2007 we had it, 2012 to 2015 we experienced the same energy crisis. The reason adduced for the crisis then haven't changed. And what were the reasons? One, distribution losses. Two, you are talking about ECG's inability to collect tariffs from users or customers. And then you're also looking at a situation where we've experienced lots of mismanagement within the sector. We realized that depending on hydro was a big problem. So we needed to shift to thermal. And of course, thermal energy is quite expensive. We all know that. But that was the only source by which you could augment whatever we were getting from Akosombo. I have been hearing people trying to blame the past government why they entered into such an expensive energy agreement with independent power producers and all that. But we need to really interrogate the whole issue. We found ourselves in a very desperate situation then. So they were also compelled to go into that desperate arrangement.
In the previous administration.
Exactly, where we had excess capacity. And then, the whole agreement is also dependent on dollar rated. Now, what has really aggravated our situation as a country, as we speak, is the fact that our macroeconomic indicators are not very sound. You are looking at our CD depreciating. So if you are paying $1, it means you have to cough out 12 cedis. So invariably, it means that cost of energy is increasing as a result of the depreciation of the CD. And then we also have a problem with inflation. This is also there. So these are the two things that have added to the problem that we're having from 1985 or 84 the way to 2015. Now, if you ask me, was it the right decision for the then government to have taken in terms of going into such an agreement? I would say, in a way, you can't fault them because with the excess capacity, I'm sure they envisaged a situation where we'll be encouraging more industries to come on board. So then, if you are going to create more industries, if you are going to have more manufacturing firms, where are they going to rely? I mean, which energy source are they going to rely on? So the provision has been made. Now, with the current arrangement that we're having, I believe that as a government, you inherit both assets and liabilities, right? So when this government took over, was there a need for them to have gone into negotiation of whatever contract they entered with the IPPs? Was there a need, or they just decided to renew the contract? Okay, so if there was a need for them to have gone into renegotiation, but that was not done, I don't think at this point we should be shifting the goalposts, or we should be apportioning blames. The same problems that we faced in the 80s and then the early 2000s, now we have added more because the economy is not doing well. So it has made cost of producing energy to be very, very expensive. And then we have a situation where we are unable to fully collect tariff from consumers. If you look at the statistics, ECG managed to pay only 11% of whatever they should have paid. So the 89% is still hanging there. And the more you delay payment, the more you aggravate the situation. I read somewhere that government even tried to go into debt restructuring with the producers, but they rejected it. I'm sure they foresaw something which will not inure to their benefit. That is why they rejected it.
So what I know is, when we owe the IPPs, when government owes IPPs, it's better for the IPPs than the reason why they actually sometimes threaten and still don't cut their service is because they'll rather you owe them than to cut the service, which will abrogate contracts maybe sometimes, and it will maybe be at their cost.
Exactly.
And so they also weigh
the options,
the pros and cons.
Exactly.
Right.
So if you owe me and I'm foreseeing that your economy is not doing well, your city is depreciating, then I stand to benefit. Okay, so I'll not rush into anything like restructuring the debt. And as we speak, I hear they owe the independent power producers $1.58 billion over 12 billion Ghana cedis. And this forms a chunk of our debt. Okay, so the question is this something that we can sustain? And the answer is no. So in the interim, what should we do? I believe that as a country, we need to embark on that drive. There should be this concerted effort to ensure that all those who matter come on board to see how best we can easily resolve this issue. Because, and if it is not resolved, it will get to a point where the independent power producers will say, okay, we don't also have enough to be supplying the country that fuel, and therefore we are also going to cut our services. And we'll go back to the problems that we thought we have already solved. So I believe that this is the right time for us to sit and then resolve the issue. Those that matter. Will it be appropriate for us to go back and then renegotiate on this excess capacity? Or can we find a way of even exporting this excess capacity? Because the alternatives...
But that was what was suggested by the previous administration. The argument has been about excess capacities.
Yes.
The reason why there was excess capacity was for you to sell the power and use it to balance, your books.
Yeah.
So why are we not able to do that? What's the difficulty that we have to manage to clear the excess capacity or do away with it and then carry the burden with exchange rates also getting worse?
Where we have got into, I think that we need to do thorough analysis of the situation. Okay. Now, when you talk of excess capacity, how much is government losing? Okay, because we are paying for it and we're not using it. That is one. Now, in terms of those who are owing ECG and they are not paying, how much do we have still in the hands of consumers that they haven't paid? Okay, and then you're also looking at how much is the depreciation contributing to this particular problem. We need to look at it from all these angles if really want to solve this problem. So I don't know, but I don't think we should at this time sit and say that we should blame the previous government. That will not solve our problem. Whatever it is, we have the system running, but it is incumbent on whoever is in charge now to take the right decision. And I think the right decision for us as a country is to tighten all the loose, ends. Okay.
So the Africa Center for Energy Policy actually released this in July. I would say, let me see if I can actually get the actual date that I actually received this from Ben Boache. So I'm sorry, just a moment. I want to get the actual dates so that we are on the same page. And I'm also thinking what Ben Boache released is not something that's far from what IMF is telling us. This was on the 4th of July. He sent it to me on the 4th of July. And today is when? Today is 17th. And you know, the caption is energy alerts. So the warnings have always been there. I think the speaking of technicalities is just too much, and we know what to do, because in the summary, he captures the cash waterfall mechanism. The cash waterfall mechanism, we're told that is not being, we're not using actually the cash waterfall mechanism. And then he goes on to say that meeting only 11%, that's what the cash waterfall mechanism has achieved, 11% of the revenue requirement. And this is because of ECG's discretionary spending and poor accounting. How difficult is this, that we have to engage in poor accounting, discretionary spending, when we know the consequences of it? There's a cash waterfall mechanism we're supposed to be using, we're not using, and then we come back and explain to people as though, what should we do?
I think at this point, discretionary spending should be out. Because look, whatever, where you are putting your money should be based on budgets, which has already been approved. So does it mean that they are going into certain areas that have not received any approval? You see, and it boils down to mismanagement. Here we know the right thing. So if you refuse to do the right thing, and then you are receiving all these warnings, and you are seeing the red flags, and you are failing to act, we shouldn't sit for us to go through the same crisis that we went through years back. I believe that ECG should be up and doing to really avert the situation, because owing independent power producers $1.58 billion is quite a chunk of money. And if you are not careful, it will derail this whole process of we trying to stabilize the economy and then trying to make our debts to be sustainable. Else, what I do, you are adding to the existing debt. And at the end of the day, it will be passed on to you, the poor consumer.
So this is what it captures in the document. ASAP captured in the document. That's the testing ECG's claims of revenue collecting and accounting. It says the whereabouts of the 3.1 billion collected by the ECG remain elusive. According to the CWM, all revenues should be approved, should be appropriately accounted for, and distributions should be carried out based on approved portions determined by the CWM committee. However, reports of the CWM committee indicates that between March and April, ECG reported a total revenue of 1.1 billion, average of 550 million Ghana cedis per month. And this amount representing approximately 35% of the 3.1 billion claimed by ECG. Even more concerning is that more than 50% of the reported revenues was used for discretionary spending.
More than 50% of the revenue that they collected went into discretionary spending. Wow. I believe that, I think ECG should come clear and throw more light on this data, because it will be difficult for me to comprehend really what is behind the discretionary spending. Why are you collecting less, but you end up spending more? So what will be left for the producers to also be paid? And I don't think it's going to augur well for us as a country. And I started by saying that what we are going through shouldn't be taken for granted, because it will get to a point where we wouldn't be able to raise enough to meet such obligation. And that would mean that the independent power producers may decide to also cut supply. So what happens? You are paying every month, you go in for your prepaid, and because somebody has failed to honor his or her obligation, you are going to suffer for it. Yes, we are getting this information from the World Bank, but I know that we know what to do as a country. All those in charge, they know what they are supposed to do. So if you are piling such debts, then you know that, look, you are making it very difficult for us to defray. Okay, so I don't know, but here, World Bank is asking us to be alert, to find alternative ways of meeting our obligation as a country. Other than that, we may find ourselves in deep waters.
But is it fair when John Mahama conducted an interview with Paul Adomotri? I remember he said the population has grown, so we preempted a more bigger population to do in terms of economy, in terms of energy, and so we had to add up. And we had a debt there, but in adding up, you're also considering how you're going to be paying your debts. So involving or engaging these IPPs was supposed to take care of the energy gap that we were experiencing.
Yeah, I'm sure what he did, every good planner must do that, because the population is not stagnant. Population is growing. At least we've been told that every year we're about 2% or so. The population is growing. So when you are preparing or you are planning towards your energy supply, then you need to also take into consideration the growth of the population, okay, or in the population. And then you're also looking at the establishment. We are encouraging people to invest in the economy. We are encouraging people to go into manufacturing, establishing factories here and all that. And you need to look at where they'll be getting energy. So you didn't wait for them to come on board and then there will not be any energy supply. So yes, that is what every good planner will do. Every good manager, you envisage things that you think are likely to happen, and then you plan towards it. And I don't think we should fault the previous government from going into such capacity arrangement. So when this government took over and they realized that we were paying for it, but it was not being used, at least we could have found an alternative for it. Or was there a need for us to have gone into renegotiation on the same agreement? Because I'm told that some of the agreements were renewed. I stand to be corrected.
Yeah, they were.
So in renewing this agreement, did we consider the excess capacity that we're having? Couldn't we have at least looked at the alternative by trying to, renegotiate to reduce the cost burden on the economy? So if we didn't do all these things and we find ourselves in this situation and try to go back and blame whoever entered into the contract, I don't think that we are justified enough.
So the World Bank goes on to say that is Amberde, when she was talking, she said that once the problems are at the level that Ghana has, if not arrested, they addressed with emergency action plan. It goes on to say things will get worse, and this will cost the state more to keep the energy sector running at a time money is needed for other things, she said. So she stated that this during an interaction with journalists in Accra last Friday to end her 3-day visit to the country. Let me take a quick break. I'll be back shortly, and as I try to, also get the video of the former power minister, Kwabena Donkor, who said a few things in reaction to what the World Bank country director said in terms of contracting expensive IPPs to support the country's power sector. I'll be back shortly. All right, you're welcome. You're welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. I'm still in the studio with Daniel Osabote, who is a senior lecturer, Faculty of Business, Technical University, Accra Technical University, speaking to us. So this is what Kwabena Donkor said. I'm still looking for the video as and when I get it, fine. But let me read the text. It says that former power minister, Former Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor has described as unfortunate comments by the World Bank Country Director Pierre-Franck Laporte, which suggests that the elsewhere Mahama administration wasted money by signing burdensome power purchase agreements. So he goes on to say that Mr. Laporte claimed that the Mahama government equally contributed to the economic woes due to the power purchase agreement signed under a take-or-pay agreement, which committed Ghana to pay for excess energy it did not need. But responding to these comments, to the World Bank Country Director comments, he says that the National Democratic Congress NDC government, when the new let me jump from here. Quote: the current energy minister, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, would tell you that on the NDC side, a number of us were quietly working together as a team, as a country, to find a way out of the energy conundrum. Now, and this gentleman, Frank Laporte, comes in the cloak of World Bank, but as a partisan, well, this is a party job, as a partisan to throw hammer into the works with the blame game. He added that the NPP government has been in power for at least 6 years, into the 7th year, and still blame the past administration, blame the PPAs for the challenges, especially relating to the fact that Ghana has a debt situation because of independent power producers, IPPs, and that's unfortunate. So the former minister also accused the World Bank country director of seeking political friends. Okay, I don't need this. That's why I wanted the video. He said, this is a politician. I don't need this part. Okay. He said that we have contracted very expensive PPAs, and I'll tell you, and this has been proven by the PwC value for money review, and Ameri power plant. The Ameri power plant, levelized over 20 years, is still the cheapest thermal plant in Ghana, and anywhere in the world, when you have to do things under the conditions emergency, you often do not get the best value for money, Donkor said. And it goes on to say that he says that deteriorating exchange rate, that's also part. The exchange rate is the major contributing factor to the huge debt crippling the energy sector. So these are some of the comments he made. And I'm not sure if, you know, the years that we are actually arguing on, 6 years, 7 years, if you contract or if you get into a contract of this nature, what has 6 years, 7 years got to do with it? It depends on the nature of the contract and the clauses captured in the contract, not so.
Provision for review, okay?
I'm sure.
Yes, and a party that has been in power for well over 6 years, I don't think that they are justified enough to say our problem should be blamed on the past government because they entered into bad contracts. And you see, when this contract was signed, look at the cedi to the dollar. It was around 4 cedis, 20 pesos. Today we have over 11 cedis something, almost 12 cedis. So if you sign a contract, and then the cedi to the dollar was 4 cedis, 20 pesos, and today you are paying close to 12 cedis to the dollar, definitely the cost of energy will go high. So I see the problem not to be emanating from the original contract, but it is on how we have managed the economy. Because if the cedi has depreciated, assuming we've managed to appreciate the cedi, we are now doing 3 cedis. It would have been very cheap for us today. Okay, it would have been very expensive then, but cheap today because the city has regained some kind of strength. But here is a case we have a situation where the city is appreciating every day. So definitely you cannot go back and blame the past government because how did you manage the city as we speak? Because if the city is strong, I don't think we'll be where we are today. And whether there was no need for an alternative arrangement for the same contract. So what is happening to the excess capacity that we have? One will ask, can't we make something out of it? So with this one district, one factory mantra, can't they rely on some of this excess capacity? You know, we need to look at it from different angles and not just to shift the blame or to, try to apportion blame. I don't think where we are supposed to do that.
So what do? We need an emergency strategy right now. I think the ECG is also doing its best by reclaiming what is stuck in the system, trying to get all the monies that it needs. It's retrieving, it's arresting people, it's taking people to court, it's arranging people to court and all that. It's even taking companies and factories off the national grid, those who have done illegal connections and all. So those are very major actions. I think ECG is trying its best, even though it has mismanaged the revenues that it has collected over the period. So what would be the nature of, emergency?
No, you see, Anne, at the level of ECG, what they are doing is what they have to do. How do we recoup or how do we collect this money from people who have consumed energy? So they are doing it right. But this goes beyond ECG. It goes beyond ECG because it is not ECG who must work hard at stabilizing the economy. As long as we have our city depreciating, we'll keep on piling on we'll be piling onto the debt. Okay, so we need to address this issue holistically. We need to look at the economy. One, what are we doing to reduce inflation? What are we doing to ensure that at least the city regains some strength or whatever? Other than that, as for the debt, we'll keep on adding to it. And I believe that we need stakeholders to come on board. This is not the time for us to be saying this government did it, that government did that.
So this was ASEP's recommendations and conclusions. It says that the first one, ECG must account for revenues. Before the major adjustment of September 2022, ECG's collection was about 50% of the revenue requirements under the CWM. However, payments under the CWM have deteriorated to new low of about 11%, although there has been 100% increase in tariffs. And that is what even baffles me. How is it 100% increase in tariffs still didn't do anything?
It will not do anything because now you are to...
And we have dipped lower with, revenue collection by 11%.
Yes, because you always equate it to the dollar.
Yes.
You equate it to the dollar. So if the city is depreciating, definitely you can collect more, but in terms of the city dollar ratio, it will still be less. So that's the problem.
So the second one, he says that periodic accountability and performance reporting by ECG, it is crucial to elevate the reporting of ECG's performance improvements beyond mere public relations as a PR campaigns. Regular and transparent reporting through encompass comprehensive data on collections and expenditures to address the needs of the entire value chain. This will enable informed decisions making the targeted interventions. The third one, it says that urgent procurement of meters.
I think with the second recommendation, we need the regulatory authority to moot such an idea because if you want to see to it that ECG seems to be doing the right thing, then the regulator must come on board. If you are talking about the way they are reporting, the way they keep their data and all that, at least there is a regulator. So what is the regulator also doing to ensure that the right things are done? I believe we need to crack the whip and do things right.
Because now it should be between the Energy Ministry, and the Finance Ministry, and ECG, or maybe the power stakeholders.
We know the problem, and we know the solution that we can prescribe in solving, in arresting this problem.
So the third
then
one, which I
one,
mentioned, is the urgent procurement meters, urgent procurement of meters. It says that the prolonged lack of meters is unacceptable. ECG must take immediate action to make meters available. And this meters, the last time Ben Boachi was speaking with Randy about it, it almost came across as though it's somebody's contract
to supply the meters.
to supply meters by not making it available on the market. So they make it deliberate. There's a deliberate effort to create shortage, so that anytime you need it, it takes God knows how long, 3 months, 1 month,
You see,
to supply you with simple meter.
If you try to create that monopoly, but you don't have the capacity to supply, then you are going to create more problems. Look, I know one-on-one, if you talk to people, why do they engage in illegal connections and all that? Some will tell you, I've applied for meter for almost a year,
Exactly
6
my
months, I've
point.
not received the
Right.
meter, so I cannot also be without power. You understand? That is not an excuse. I mean, that is not to hold brief for such illegality. But I believe that we need to also act, and act fast. We need to have the meters, and the meters must be very efficient. You know, was it six months ago or 4 months ago, we had a situation where a whole software went down. People had to queue to get prepaid, and all that. You know, this shouldn't happen. You know, it shouldn't happen. So I think we need to take a second look at these recommendations and quickly act. Else, the prediction that we are getting, that if we fail to act now, we may be going through
We have
energy
the
crisis.
solutions given to us, recommendations provided.
Yes.
I just think that the long talk about energy is just getting really boring and annoying. It gets to a point where it's very. I received this on the 4th of July. World Bank is now speaking. Don't we know this?
See, Anne, the other day I said in this studio that it appears anytime we go in for bailout from the World Bank, the whole agenda is geared towards ensuring sustainability, debt sustainability, and then growing the economy. But we don't really delve into finding reasons for the huge debt. And one of the reasons adduced to this huge debt is what we have been told today, that we are owing, as a country, we are owing independent power producers $1.58 billion, and it's adding to the public debt. So what are we doing? We have the solution. Are we not ready to act, or we are just waiting for us to go through worst crisis? And I've also been saying that one of the reasons why in 2015 we ran to the IMF was the energy crisis that we faced, where companies folded up because they were not getting energy supply. You know, companies were forced into buying plants, spending so much in running their businesses and all that. Okay, and that affected the economy seriously. Okay, and I don't think that we should sit for a similar thing to happen to us.
So I have final two. We have long-term private investment in ECG. You know, people were suggesting of privatization, but maybe it's too early in the days to be suggesting privatization. For now, we should clean our system first, maybe, to make it more attractive for investment.
You know, oh, sorry, finish.
Yes, go ahead.
You know
Go
what?
ahead.
You know, people are also finding alternative energy means. Okay, we are talking about renewable energy. We have lots of Ghanaians who are going into solar energy. Some are going into wind energy and all that. So they are also on their own trying to find alternative means, okay, to meet their energy supply. So if you are not ready to also let go your monopoly, then people in their own small way will also find a way of meeting their energy supply. So if you are producing in excess of whatever you need, and people are also finding alternative ways of also generating their own energy, then we are going to have more excess capacity.
So we just have to expand the energy mix.
Exactly.
So this is the final one says that procurement of efficient power plant, and it goes on to say that there's an urgent need for regulatory to set policy benchmark on the efficiency of new generations additions. And then some examples of efficient power plants in Ghana prove that installing the most efficient power plant is possible. Extending efficient power plant by ECG signifies poor oversight of the regulatory institutions, which ultimately risks the stability of the grid, pollutes the environment, and expensive for the consumer in the long run.
I think World Bank also gave a fantastic suggestion on this West Africa energy pool. That one tends to be less expensive. I don't know how far they have reached with that West Africa energy pool, but if that will also help us, why not? We can also give it a try.
When the World Bank suggests things,
So honestly,
I take with a pinch of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's becoming more of a political talk, honestly.
World Bank is a political entity.
Yeah, it's becoming more of a political talk.
They also do things that will benefit them.
Yes.
So why is it that we are not able to think along the lines where it will also benefit us?
But honestly, we must act now. We must act now until we find a lasting solution to this our cedi depreciation and this inflation thing. You can adjust the tariff every 3 months. I don't think you'll be able to meet the cost of production.
Right.
That would be a very difficult thing to do.
So some from East Legon Hill says that, Annie, good afternoon. The president and all the government communicators keep citing COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine war as a cause of our financial woes. This is unfortunate. Do they want us to believe this? And that it was these two occurrences that pushed us into the unsustainable borrowing that we engaged in to the extent that we were locked up out of the capital market. What has COVID got to do with the excessive borrowing when monies collected in the name of COVID-19 was far more than what we spent on the nation? So what's happening in ECG is just a reflection of the poor governance we are getting from the almost all sectors of the economy. Sam Kelly from East Legon Hills sent us in. Okay, I think your final words in our time.
Just to react to this particular text, I don't see why we should keep on using COVID-19 and then Russia-Ukraine war as one of the reasons for the crisis that we went through. I believe what COVID-19 and the Ukraine-Russian war has done to us, or has taught us, is that our economy wasn't as strong as we thought.
As well grounded as...
Not at all. The fundamentals weren't too strong. And that is why COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war exposed us. In fact, we're really exposed because we had countries who went through the same crisis, but they are still standing. So what's the difference? It's like we have all put up a building because your foundation is solid. The wind will blow, the rains will come, your building will still be standing.
Will go down. When we talk about our time is that when we talk about the economy, sometimes it confuses me how when this government took over, there was an argument that we were on the right path until COVID and Russia-Ukraine war hit us. And then on another side, another argument, you hear them say, but the World Bank was also predicting that we were getting into crisis even before the Russia-Ukraine war hit. So you don't know what to...
The other day I used data to prove that anytime we go for IMF support, within 3 years of the IMF program, we tend to do very well.
We get better.
After the IMF program, then we go back to our old ways of doing things.
Thank you very much. Daniel Sabute is a senior lecturer, Faculty of Business, Accra Technical University. We couldn't get through to Joe Jackson, who is a Director of Business Operations, Deloitte Finance as well. But my name is Ania Fampo. For this, what time will allow us, we'll be interrogating and following through. Let's see what we can also do with warnings that have come from our own people, even before the IMF came through. My name is Ania Fampo. Thanks for watching.